People have been predicting the death of the smartphone for at least 8 years now, if not longer. But everywhere you go, that's all you see these days. But now, folks like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, and even Bill Gates are trying to sell us on what's next. And that also means the death of the smartphone. So what's going on here? We're going to chat with our favorite smartphone and AR/VR expert on this episode of Today in Tech. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Joining me on the show today is Ramon Llamas. He is the research director of mobile devices and AR/VR at IDC. Welcome back, Ramon. We've had you on the show several times.
Great to be back.
All right. So, again, as I was doing some research for this episode, I found a Business Insider article from 2017. So that's where I came up with this 8 years. And I'm sure that even before that, there was these people saying that, the smartphone is going to eventually die, and then things are going to get really interesting, some of the early stuff. But now, within the last few weeks, I've been seeing a lot of articles. Mark Zuckerberg was on a podcast. Elon Musk continues to talk about Neuralink. Bill Gates, again, of all people, is talking about the death of the smartphone. And instead, everyone's going to have electronic tattoos, which I'm like, okay. Sam Altman, you start seeing all these people. The only person who's not talking about it is Tim Cook, or if he is talking about it, it's like, no, the smartphone's great. So, why are we hearing this now? What have you heard? And then kind of what's your take on this? We got a lot of stuff to talk about, so you don't have to give me all of your takes right now.
Sure. But it's really interesting, isn't it? That you have all these, kind of visionaries and big names coming out and saying, smartphone, the smartphone's gone. The time is up. Okay,
yeah.
We're ready to move on. And you don't have to look very far behind them to say, okay, what do they have in their back pocket that they want to? They want to say, hey, this is what's going to replace it. And we've heard so many different things. It's going to be glasses. It's going to be ambient computing. It's going to be a wearable device. It's going to be a tattoo. And I think those are really fantastic and also in some cases crazy ideas. I mean tattoos. Okay, I know we're going to talk about that in a little bit, but wow, can you imagine walking down the street and you see people with a tattoo on, or if they're trying to gesture with their arm or wherever it is on their body, or they're playing with their glasses or something like that. I mean, it's not too far afield though from what we're already doing with our smartphones, for crying out loud. We can walk for miles just staring down at our screen. So is it incredibly crazy? No. Is it immediate? I don't think so. And between this point and the next one, there's got to be a lot of developments, a lot of breakthroughs, a lot of innovations in order to make that happen.
The first thing I hear or I think about when people are telling me this, or when they're shouting from the mountaintop, oh, the smartphone is dead, death to the smartphone, is who it is. And who are these people that are saying this? And every one of those people have something else to sell. And so it was the same way with AI. All the people that were shouting from the mountaintop about how great AI is because they had an AI platform or an AI service or something to kind of sell to other people. You still see that in a lot of the enterprise stuff, the people that are talking about AI agents now and things like that. It's like, well, yeah, because you're going to be selling me an AI agent platform. So I try to look at analysts and authors and academics and, some of those people to go, is this really true? Is this, where are we at this point? What do the numbers say? Are they, are smartphone sales declining? Are they still growing? Are they strong? What, because I guess if you looked at the numbers, you could actually start predicting this type of stuff too, right?
Yeah, sure. But here, let's have a quick history lesson, okay? For the past, I'm going to say, 12 plus years, there's an average of about 1.2 billion with a B, smartphone shipping every single year. Okay. And it's kind of had some ebbs and flows according to, the economy and the world conditions. I mean,
right.
During COVID, you saw, some decline there. But the past, year or so, 2 years, we've seen not double digit growth, but, when you talk about billions of units and you talk about the trillions of dollars associated with that, seeing those single digit increases each year, this is still very much, the device that, holds pride of place for a lot of people. And I think by the end of this year, we're still going to be coming up over 1 billion units. And we could talk about, tariffs and what that's going to, result in. But, but you're still talking about billions of units that are shipping every single year. And to quote one of my friends who quoted somebody else, he said to me, Ramon, from my cold, dead hands, will you get my smartphone?
Right.
I said, I think, that kind of just really puts it out there rather succinctly that the smartphone's not really going to be going anywhere. And, a lot of other devices have kind of come and gone. and not really made a dent in that entire smartphone play.
Yeah, I think the other thing that bothers me is that we haven't come to a consensus at all on what that device is going to be. So we're still in the early days. It's like if you could come up and say, yeah, the smartphone's going to die. If you had something like, yeah, it's going to be this. It's going to be a smart pen. And then I had 10 other, big tech leaders saying, oh yeah, it's going to be, they all started coming out with smart pens that, somehow, replace this. But, sorry. So we can't even agree at this point on what it's going to be. Is it going to be glasses? Is it going to be AR enabled glasses? Is it going to be the earbuds? I think that the earbud with voice recognition and AI embedded into it, probably talking to your smartphone, because I don't think it's going to be a separate device. That is something that might get people to think about not using their smartphone enough. But again, it's because we just don't have that consensus yet.
And we're not going to see a consensus for a while either. Yeah. Okay. But let's take each of these kind of situations in each of these devices one by one for a little bit and say what are their chances of happening. And it sounds to me that you're kind of bullish on the earbud situation, right?
Yeah, I really do think that with the Apple earbuds, the AirPod Pro, with the hearing aid capabilities, I've been playing with that for the last 7 or 8 months. I do have some mild hearing loss, but then when I put them in and it enhances the room, I was like, okay, now this is too loud. So I have to find a happy medium here. But I could see that it's giving me a health benefit, and if you could just tie it to the ability to then basically say, ask Siri. Now, again, that's a problem too. Apple hasn't been able to kind of jump over the new and improved Siri yet with its AI software. I think that's a big problem. But if you had a company that could say, yeah, we could take this and we can, we'll give you some earbuds. You connect it to your smartphone. The smartphone directly chats with ChatGPT or whatever. Or does all the processing on the phones, then I think we start to get into the world of maybe I'm not using the smartphone as much. I still have a lot of other apps that I need to use the smartphone for, which we can get into as well.
Exactly. And I think there's a couple things to unpack there is that, you're still relying on your smartphone. Okay?
Yeah.
I think that's first and foremost. So therefore, the smartphone is not dead.
Right.
Okay. It still has to be. It's
all
still
right.
playing a key role in it.
Yeah.
Maybe it's minimized, but it still has to be there. I mean, that's where most of the computing is going to take place.
Yeah.
A lot of the go fetch and that's where the connectivity takes place as well. Okay. And then at the same time, you're looking at it and say, that's really going to be at best half or maybe like a third of the entire smartphone experience. I mean, what are you going to do for the visual part?
Right.
And that's going to be incredibly and totally lacking.
Right.
But, I can see that, there are some, health, applications over here. And it wasn't too long ago. I mean, it was a decade ago that Samsung came out with a pair of earbuds that also operated as fitness trackers at the same time. Who's to say that those things can't go back in?
Yeah.
But it's you're looking at a device that can only give you some functionality, not all the functionality that you've come to know and love about your smartphone.
Right.
Okay?
Right. So you're not sold on anything around the ears at all, or is this, or maybe not earbuds, but like what if we had something that was like we're wearing headphones right now? If there was a device that could have all of that computing capability in a headphone, walking down the street, you wouldn't really get that many looks if you're just wearing a pair of headphones, right?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. And remember when the first, AirPods, Gen 1 came out, what was that, 2016?
Okay.
Almost 10 years ago now. But you looked at these people who had these, weird, white sticks coming out of the ears, pointing down in their mouths. And you thought to yourself, I thought to myself too, man, they look really strange. They look really weird. It's very insectoid, for some people.
Yeah.
But today it's commonplace. You kind of expect it. And even if you're not out and about, if you're just like lounging around at home, like my son, whom I love dearly, he's watching TV in the other room with his AirPods in because he wants to play video games at the same time. So I think there's a social acceptance with a lot of earwear, whether it be a headphones or an earbud or anything like that. Functionality, that entire experience has to be audio. And yes, like you said, it's going to depend on the smartphone. So the smartphone's not dead when it comes to having your earbuds.
Okay, so if we move on from ears, let's move from the ears to the eyes. Okay, and so The next thing I want to talk about are like these Meta Ray-Ban AR glasses. I think they're getting closer. And you know, we've met a couple of people that had them. They're integrating it with the Meta AI stuff, so you can talk to the glasses. The glasses will tell you something. The glasses give the ability to record things, right? Mm-hmm. So you can record and take pictures. Yes. But again, does it go back to your smartphone when you do that? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So you know, the idea is that these augmented reality I mean, are they called AR glasses, or do they? Because they don't have a screen on them, right?
There's no display.
Yeah.
There's no display. Right. So it's really just. It's kind of like an advanced, snap spectacles,
right?
that can do some recording, and but you're not going to get any playback,
right?
On your glasses at all.
And the more I think about a lot of these technologies that want to put the screen in your eyes, mm-hmm. or whether it's projecting at something, the old Google Glass where they had the little thing and you could see that, yeah, or and if you get those with augmented reality glasses. Or if you go full VR and now you're wearing like ski goggles and things like that, the more I think about it, I was like, I don't want anything on my eyes. I don't want any, because again, the joy of the smartphone is that you're mobile with it. It's not, you're not just sitting down, you're in the car, you're walking around, you're working out, and this is not a problem with all of those scenarios. And so when I start thinking about glasses, even the ones that are going to be putting monitors in you're not going to use it when you drive unless it's tied into a car system that does a pop-up thing. So I'm not sold on the glasses yet either. Like, you cover this space. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing out there?
I think out of any other devices so far, I think glasses hold perhaps the most promise. Okay, because you have that audio experience that you will get because in the stems over here, you're going to have the speakers. You get that visual component too, okay? And eventually, I have to think, and it's already there. The technology's already there that you can have that, display over here, broadcast, into your eyeball. Actually, if you can find the right ones. I think there's something, going on over here. I mean, there's AI built in. It's very contextual. It's very responsive in terms of having, voice commands and getting you that information without a lot of latency. Not a lot of lag, and can bring that stuff up to you. Okay. However, take a while to guess what the battery life is for Ray-Ban Meta glasses.
Oh, 2 hours.
Ooh,
less?
No, it's actually more. It's actually more. It's between 4 and 6.
Okay, that's not bad.
It's not bad.
But it's not a full day.
Is it what you need it to be?
Yeah.
No, it's not. I mean, I'm the kind of guy, like, I wake up, I check my phone. Before to bed, I check my phone. Throughout the day, I have my phone.
Yeah.
And, I remember days when I had an older smartphone. And then every 6 to 8 hours, I had to find a socket. I had to charge that thing immediately. And I don't want to relive that again.
Right.
That's going to make it a non-starter. And if you look at some of the other glasses that are out there, because we've talked about, VR and mixed reality, AVP, Apple Vision Pro, 2.5 hours.
Okay.
Meta Quest 3, 2.5 to almost 3 hours. Okay. And even with those kinds of times, having those things on your face, most people won't really last past an hour.
And those are more like sit down and enjoy entertainment type of devices, right?
Exactly.
That's why you see it in gaming, you see it in movie watching. You're not working out with these things yet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I kind of like the model that Ray-Ban / Meta and Amazon have kind of put out, saying it's not going to be all the time that you need information. It's not going to be all the time, and you're going to stretch that 4 to 6 hours into 6 or 7, maybe 8. Who knows? But to what degree are you going to be able to consume all the content and all the data that you want to experience? That still kind of remains an open question. So, you're going to lose a lot of battery juice from displays to begin with.
Right.
Okay. And when you run out, that fast, maybe just watching a YouTube video or watching a movie.
Right. Okay. So we're probably not going to see the smart glasses take over and kill the smartphone, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. But if anything, it's going to come out of any other product right now.
Yeah.
it's probably going to be the closest.
So what I like about the smartphone again is this general purpose device that does a lot of things. I tried to write a list of everything that I use my smartphone for, and this was probably just a short list. I'm sure it's a lot longer of what I use it for. But all right, phone calls. I'm still one of those people that actually uses the phone every now and then. Text messaging, Instagram, social media, games, a calculator, an alarm clock, a GPS system, a music player, video player, camera, all of. And that's just the starting point. For any other device to succeed and kill the smartphone, you have to have all of those functions, right? I still haven't figured out a way that glasses are going to wake me up because I take the glasses off when I sleep. Or same thing. It's like when I sleep, I don't have anything attached to me, like wearables. Maybe the watch. Yeah, we didn't really bring up the watch, but that's another possibility.
It is.
So
another possibility.
Do you agree with that anything that's going to quote unquote kill the smartphone has to have these multi-purpose devices, or does it just have to have like 5 or 6 of those features?
I think, and here's where it gets dangerous.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think it's going to have all of these same kinds of experiences and same kinds of applications, because some of them you just can't do. Some of them you just can't do, and some of them you can. Okay. But if we had a feature by feature comparison between the smartphone and a potential device, an alternative device, and you have every single one on both of them.
Yeah.
Human behavior tells me, well, I'm just going to reach for my smartphone.
Okay, right. Because in order to go to something new, it has to be better and probably less expensive, right?
Faster, better, cheaper, less expensive. Yeah. But the other part is that, whatever that alternative device is going to be, whatever it's going to be, and I don't care if it's going to be glasses, a wearable, earphones or anything else, it also has to bring to the table something that you just can't have on a smartphone. Otherwise,
okay,
there's no sense in having that. I mean,
So is there anything that you could think of that you can't get on a smartphone?
Well, I mean, look, smartwatches are a great example.
Okay.
I mean, the first smartwatches, and here we are 10 years later after the first Apple Watch, already. And what was that first Apple Watch all about? It was really, kind of like almost an iPhone shoehorned into a smaller form factor.
Yeah.
Okay. But it wasn't until that they introduced all the health and fitness stuff that you can't do on a phone.
Right.
And you can only experience on a watch that it's like, oh, I get it. This is why I have the smartwatch. This is, I want, and then, how much of a contest was it to quote unquote close your rings? Okay. and it still happens today.
Yeah, I never got into that whole thing. Like I didn't, the smartwatch that I had, like when I had an Apple Watch, it was handed down from my wife, and I just didn't like it. I just don't like wearing watches anymore.
And that's
for me,
that's
a watch is here. What time is it? And I can just grab the smartphone and look at the time.
True. But I have a smartwatch on right now. This is a Google Pixel Watch 3.
Do they have the close the ring thing or something similar?
Because it's based on Fitbit stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, did you get all your steps and stuff like that? But this is how I manage everything, because I'm trying to be healthy in my older age and stuff like that. So that's really important to me. But can I do that on my Pixel smartphone? No, not really. Okay. And again, kind of going back to, feature by feature, if we're going to have all those things like alarm clocks and music players and video players and GPS, and it's like, okay, fine. But let's throw it back to the glass. What's the glass going to be able to do that I can't do? Here it is. You ready?
Okay.
It's having that see what I see experience, keeping your hands free.
Okay.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't think, a lot of people have kind of woken up to that, because they're all used to like, oh, I'll just hold my smartphone up, and like, no, that's not the point. Okay. The point is that, like, here, if I'm, working on my kid's bike and I'm stuck, and I can like dial up this kid up the street who fixes bikes. I'm like, hey, what am I doing wrong? Take a look.
Yep.
Which sprocket am I not doing correctly?
Yeah.
And my hands are free to do that, because in the smartphone version, it's pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down. Let me show you again. And it's just so frustrating. It's so frustrating that, the person at the other end is going to say, hang up, I'm going to be there in 10 minutes. It's true. But having that entire, that shared experience on that device, That's something that the smartphone can't do easily.
And we've heard that for years too, with in the business world, where field service techs were supposed to be equipped with a lot of like smart glasses or headsets and things like that, so that if they're, your cable guy comes out to look at something and he can't fix it, or he's looking, they can then just call, someone at customer service, or call back in the office, and the expert can go, okay, here's what I'm looking at. Is it just because the network connectivity wasn't there at the time, and the experience was bad, or were we just assuming that the field tech wasn't going to be able to solve the problem? Like, why did that? Or maybe it is still taking off. Maybe you do see that in some of this. It is
taking off, but you just don't get to see it as much.
Yeah, from the consumer side, you don't see that as much.
But if you're in manufacturing or field service, where you are sent out, either down the street, or you have to get on a plane or something like that, and 2 time zones away, and you're assigned to fix, let's just say it's a photocopier or something like that.
Right.
Okay. There's a lot of money and time associated with that. Whereas with the glasses, it's almost immediate.
Yeah.
So
I've got a use for the glasses that I want to ask you about, and because I think this would be a great idea. Just that you can't really get this on the smartphone.
What's up?
Which is, you're walking down the street, or you're at an event. You're at an IDC event, for example, and you've met a lot of people, and you're like, oh, I know this guy. I know we've met before, but I can't remember his name. And then, point the glasses, say, tell me who this is, whether it's based on facial recognition or something. And then it then relays it back into your ears. It says, oh, that's Ramon, I know, like, that's a thing that I would pay for. Because I go and meet a lot of people, and I'm like, hey, you, how you doing? And you forget their name. And it's a lot better when I go, oh, hey, Ramon, how you doing? We met last year.
Right. And it solves a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, here's the thing. Is it a problem that's experienced every single day?
Well, it depends on how much you do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But for business people that do that a lot, it's a nice little cheat.
Okay.
for those people.
Sure. It is a cheat. But here's the other thing, how creepy is that? Because we haven't talked about the creepy factor.
There is still the creepy factor. Yeah. Okay. You want to talk about it now, or you want to keep going? I got one other thing.
Oh, bring it on.
Again, it's the language translation. If you're in a it's almost like the Babelfish from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Instead of having it stuck in your ear and your brain, you see someone, and you're in a foreign country, you say something, or they say something to you, it translates it for you. And then again, you could do this on the phone, but now you're not being awkward and just looking down and saying something and then looking back up. It's now direct. I can have eye contact with you, and then maybe turn by turn directions if you're walking around a city.
And I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
And I have to think that companies like, say, Google is probably working on that right now. I mean, how many times have we watched Google I/O, and they throw up the video that says, here are two kids, one's from France and one's from the United States, and they're passing the phone back and forth with each other, trying to say, hey, do you want to play soccer? Like, what's soccer? Oh, I meant football. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back and forth like that. And I think those are the building blocks of what's happening already. Okay. And for that to come to your glasses, well, probably, it's eventually going to happen, because you probably could have that auditory experience already. We just got to have the projector experience that's going to have, kind of like subtitles underneath our eyes.
Yeah.
In a way that's, not distracting to the other person. Like, oh, wow, what's that showing up on his face as I'm speaking? Oh, right. That's really interesting.
It would have to be subtle, just where it's then into your ears, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, finding directions is important. Here, I'm a big fan of GPS just about anywhere I go.
Yeah.
But having that as a hands-free experience, oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because when it comes time to say, all right, I parked my car, now I got to walk, and now I got to find this place.
Yeah.
And somebody help me if I'm in, say, like Korea or Taiwan, China, Japan. Pick any place that doesn't have Western letters and names. I need help.
Yeah.
And even if it's on my phone in a way that it's like I can't understand it,
you could probably tell the tourists in a city, because they're all looking down and they're looking for the maps and like that, instead of just walking around. And
you can probably tell who the Americans are.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So we've covered kind of some of the ear stuff and the eye stuff. Do we even want to bring up the brain stuff, like the Neuralink, or having a chip embedded into your arm? Is that just way too cyberpunk for everybody?
I think that is many steps afield.
Yeah.
For most people to handle. Okay. Look, I myself and a whole bunch of my friends, total needle phobes. And you think we're going to have,
the tattoos, too.
have tattoos
Yeah.
or implanted into my brain? And if you look at, some of the news around Neuralink about, some of the testing they've done and the results, it doesn't inspire confidence. Okay. Now, one of the solutions that they did provide was, hey, we're helping people with impaired eyesight to see better. I'm like, okay, I get that.
Yep.
Now we're solving a problem.
Right.
Okay. But,
to make it from the jump from solving a problem into something that you can use in everyday life or, mass production thing it's not going to happen, at least in my lifetime.
And I don't think we're there. And then, we haven't even touched, how safe are these for your body?
Yeah.
Okay. We're not talking about, just, some kind of, say, heart monitor or a glucose monitor, which has been, FDA approved and stuff like that. Now we got something that first of all has this battery. It's also connected. And originally it's supposed to kind of feed, data to you.
Yeah.
Okay. And maybe in some other instances, it's going to feed data back.
Remember all the people that were freaking out about cell phones and brain cancer, and if you were holding it up to your head all day, and there were studies and they were inconclusive. And I remember on Wi-Fi tours we were talking about this stuff all the time about is this gonna all the radio waves are hitting us. Exactly. I can only imagine the panic or the discussion that would come up there.
Yeah, and to have it inside your body on a regular basis.
Why is Elon Musk so high on that then, in terms of going beyond just to helping people?
I think it's for a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is many things. Okay, we need not get through all.
He's
of them.
an enigma wrapped in a riddle,
wrapped in a mystery,
in a potato. Yeah.
But let's give him credit for being very futurist and forward and saying this is what we can do. Okay, and once he's kind of broken the barrier of saying well, we've made the possible a reality. Okay. And you can see some of the products and services he's done, for better, for worse. He's also the kind of guy that sets his sight on the next big thing of what can we make real? Okay.
Right.
And I think, having a Neuralink, device implanted, it's probably not going to be for everybody, but at the same time, there's going to be an audience that says, yeah, I want in and I want in now.
Okay, I'll wait.
I'm not there.
I'll step on the sidelines for that one. What about some of these AI pins and things like that? I mean, some of those were like hyped to the max a few years ago, and then failed miserably. This was like the Star Trek type of badge. Mm-hmm. I think it worked with your smartphone, or maybe it was just voice and you could click on it. But again, it was really just single purpose. I would need to ask a question. I might need to be hands free. Give me an answer. It was really just one function. It was not going to play a movie for you. It might play music for you, but they did not have. Maybe that's the alarm clock thing. But I wouldn't want to wear that when I'm sleeping either.
Yeah, the AI pin was actually that was a standalone device. You did not need a smartphone for that because you had to get it with at least here in the United States, you had to get it with a T-Mobile account, a T-Mobile SIM card.
Yeah.
And I think that was a really fancy way of saying like, here's what we can do with AI. Here's what, we're going to be able to say here, we can look at your schedule. We can take a look at your texts. We can, show it to you also as a holographic projection, which was, very cool for, a very select audience. Right. But I think, for something like that, it was just more so a demonstration of what's possible. And eventually you're going to see some of those technologies, probably not all of them, but you're definitely going to see some of those technologies make their way into other types of devices. It could be, and we're already seeing it, coming to some smartphones. It could probably come to glasses. Yeah. It could probably come to some other devices too.
Yeah. I still think AI will just be integrated into an existing device, and it'll be in a smartphone. And maybe all the processing will be done on the phone instead of going to the cloud, which would help speed up a lot of the answers. But, they haven't gotten there yet. A lot of the AI chip smartphone stuff that I look at is just like, this is just goofy. It's usually like, hey, draw a fancy emoji. I'm like, no. I don't really want to do that. I don't want to spend all that money. All right, so I got two more kind of points, and one, and then I want to, I got, all right. So first one, every time someone says that something is about to die, I just roll my eyes because I've been in this industry for 20 something years plus, and they always said the mainframe's going to die. The PC is going to die. And people are, companies are still using mainframes. Companies, you're still using a computer. You've got one right here.
I do.
The smartphone and the tablet was supposed to kill that. Didn't you realize that, Ramon? Like, yeah. Paper is supposed to go away. Email and all this,
going away.
But I've still got paper here.
There it is.
So every time that there's a new technology or that there's going to be a claim of something dying, we could just go to the litany of long devices that are still operational.
We could. And
radio is still around.
And I love radio. Yeah. I love radio. But, at the same time, there is, and forgive this, kind of analogy, there is a graveyard of other devices that have kind of gone away because of the ascension of some technologies out there.
You got it off the top of your head. Okay. What can you name?
MP3 player.
Okay.
Digital camera.
Well, standalone. Oh, okay. Digital cameras are making a comeback. My daughter is
Alarm clock.
Alarm clock. Well,
Walkman.
Yeah.
CD player.
Okay.
Cassette tapes.
Well, vinyl's back.
CDs. I think you raise a good point, but I think generally.
But that was always just physical media that you were talking about too.
True. But I think what really just happens here is that do some things disappear and do some things stay? Yes. Okay. But I think there's going to be an evolution in the way that we use them, and there's going to be an evolution in the demand too. I mean, look, I just finished filing my taxes, yesterday. Sorry. Sorry.
Did you get an extension?
I got an extension.
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. But the thing is, it's like, there once upon a time, I had to go to an office or have it mailed to me, like sign this. It's all on paper. Okay. Now it's all digital signatures.
Yeah.
Okay. And on their end, they're going to print it out. Okay. So I've saved myself some time. The company I hired, they're going to save time. They're going to do all the printing. Okay. Yeah. And it's still gonna work. Okay. So I think, some of these things are just gonna have to evolve. Okay. And not to necessarily die.
Right.
Because, I still think there's gonna be, use cases for most of these devices, either that or they're gonna be appropriated into something else.
All right. So we've spent a lot of time defending the smartphone. I do want to reverse spin the table around a little bit and go, all right, well, this still does have some problems. Mm-hmm. At least in terms of there's a lack of innovation that's going on, I think, in the smartphone space. Mm-hmm. And you can either agree with me or disagree with me. But like I'll bet you if you took out your smartphone right now, it would look the same as this smartphone, right?
More or less, less or more.
Black rectangular brick. Maybe, I've got a cover on it. Maybe you've got a fancier cover. Mm-hmm. But it's basically this size and this shape. Early cell phones, it felt like there was more innovations around it. You had the Nokia, the candy bar one, and then I had an LG one that flipped up, which was like a Star Trek communicator. I had one that slid up, and so you started seeing innovations early on, but as the industry moved towards, I want to say commoditization, but of one form factor, and so we've seen bits and pieces of maybe some innovations like a foldable screen or flexible screen. Like, what's the latest on that? Is it foldable or is it flexible now?
It depends which one you're talking about. Okay? Yeah. So if it comes out like so, I mean, like what Samsung's been doing, and Pixel, Motorola, those are certainly foldables.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you can have some kind of device, I mean, there's a prototype at CES not too long ago where it was, very bendy, flexy screen and that just boom, kind of wrapped around your wrist like a cuff. I'm like, so that's your flexible. Okay. You can see which ones have kind of made it.
Yeah.
And which ones, are still waiting.
Like, why hasn't there been more innovation then? Is it just because of cost? And you're like, well, I know I'm going to sell, 1 billion of these versus maybe 1 million of something else.
Yeah. I think in terms of hardware, we've definitely hit that plateau, and that plateau has been around for, I want to say almost 15 years at this point. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
Look, we said goodbye to, for the most part, we said goodbye to the flip phone. We said goodbye to the clamshell. We said goodbye to devices with a QWERTY keyboard. Once upon a time, those were
Blackberries. Oh man, that's bringing me back. Yeah,
I'm dating myself. Dating myself. But there's and we've kind of gravitated to slabs of silicon and metal and glass, and I think that's the model that is pretty simple, straightforward.
Right.
Fewer parts, less cost.
Right.
Okay. And what a lot of vendors have been hearing time and time again over the years is we want more space to see our stuff.
Right.
Okay. That's why you have foldables. Okay. How big of a screen do you want? Do you want it to rival your tablet? Here you go. Okay. Mm-hmm. Remember the days of the quote unquote phablet?
I don't remember even that term. The phablet? What was that? A phone and a tablet?
Phone and a tablet. It was like
phablet. Wow.
Yeah, it was about like a 6.5-inch screen on the diagonal.
Okay.
They were pretty well at the time.
Yeah.
They were rather significant. I mean, it's probably about the same as an iPhone Pro Max or something like that.
Do you think we need to wait for Apple to come out with something because they are the leader in the market for a lot of these, for the smartphone, for example? Mm-hmm. They might not. Although, do they sell the most, or is a company in China that's selling more?
I think last year Apple had the pole position.
Okay.
But they weren't far ahead of the some of the Samsungs and the Oppos and the Vivos, etc. So when you kind of
it seems like those are the companies that will innovate, will be like the Samsungs and those companies. Mm-hmm. But they don't just get as much traction as if in a month or so, whenever the worldwide developer, if Tim Cook comes out and goes, here's our foldable, all of a sudden foldable is going to be the next big thing.
I think the foldable is going to appeal to a certain kind of audience too. Yeah. I mean, because let's face it, these are not inexpensive. I mean, you're going to be approaching $1,500, $1,800. In today's economy, that's a lot of money for people to kind of handle. Okay.
Does Apple have a problem though with the people that have accepted the smartphone and they don't want to upgrade all the time? Because again, I think this phone is, I think it's a 13. I think it's so I'm at least 2 or 3 years behind or versions. Mm-hmm. Chris, our director, who's over there, he's on one phone every 5 years, and he's in the majority because we've had rants before with about this idea, and I thought he was an outlier, but he's actually in the majority of the people that are only upgrading their phones once every 5 years, or if the battery finally goes.
Exactly. Exactly.
Versus the people that some of the editors we have on the show, they're like, oh, new phone, I'm gonna get one. Like, upgrading every year.
Once upon a time, and this is probably harkening back to a little bit under 2 decades ago. It was about every other year type of replacement cycle. Yeah. Okay. And there's a lot of indicators why. I mean, that's when your contract was up. Yeah. And you figure, okay, let's go and upgrade to the next one. And if you paid really close attention, a lot of those upgrades took place when the new phone was released.
Right.
Okay? I knew a lot of people who kind of timed themselves to that. And then, as people have seen, you don't have to replace every single year. Okay. These phones are intended to be, durable and last quite a bit. And so 2 years became 2.5, became just under 3, became 3. And now we're kind of hovering about 3.25, 3 1/3. Yeah. Kind of a replacement cycle.
And you have kids, right?
I got 3 of them.
You got 3. I got 3, and they're all teenagers. Mm-hmm. I have found that they are less and less likely to bother me about a new smartphone now. They're getting into that cycle where they're okay. Mm-hmm. It used to be like, oh, I broke my phone, I have to get a new one, or I would basically leave it up to my wife to say, oh, I need a new, and then we start trading phones, and or if there was an upgrade. But for me, it's like I'm pretty much happy with waiting 3 or 4 years before I get another phone. At this point, it'll have to be just the battery that finally gets me to get a new one.
A battery or something happens.
Or
cracked screen, whatever, it doesn't charge anymore or anything like that. And I think that's kind of the norm right now. But meanwhile, if you're a smartphone, if you're a Tim Cook, kind of just like, circle back to everything, who says, the smartphone's not going anywhere. Oh, and by the way, 2/3 of Apple's revenues come from iPhone.
Right. But it felt like this last go round over the last year, the 16 was not, would you consider it a hit, or? Because they had announced all of these Apple Intelligence features, and then they said, "Oh yeah, it's coming like 6 months later." I just haven't seen the hype around the 16 as opposed to previous years.
I think because the iPhone 16 or Apple Intelligence more specifically was kind of on a time schedule of coming out, and even to this day, here we are in May of 2025. Yeah, I still know a number of people who are still on the wait list for Apple Intelligence.
Wow,
they're still waiting.
Yeah.
Seriously, guys?
Yeah.
Seriously?
So now we're at that upgrade cycle where they're going to have to announce a 17, either announce it in June and then maybe ship it in September. Mm-hmm. Are you going to be like, okay, now we really mean it? Like we're going to actually fix it? Or, because there's been a lot of stories about, all the stuff going on with the AI stuff.
There is, and it's a question of, how much more powerful can Siri get? And realistically, how much can it deliver?
Right.
Okay?
Right.
But I think given what how Apple has chosen to kick off 2025, it's not so much what something a consumer would notice, but it's definitely something that Apple and some of its component suppliers have noticed is that hey, Apple's coming out with its own modem. and it started, seriously, and it started on the 16E.
It's coming out with its own what? Did you just say modem?
That's their new
okay.
That's what they have going on. Well, it's less it's in the less expensive 16E. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And Joe and Jane Smith on Main Street USA aren't really going to notice or really care.
Yeah.
Okay. But when you're the number one smartphone maker in the world, or one of the top smartphone makers in the world, and then let's face it, there aren't many companies out there where you buy your components from, and you suddenly say to them, "Thanks, but no thanks. We're going to make it ourselves."
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that you just lost. Okay. And for Apple, that's a lot of cost savings you just realized. Okay. And I think with the 16E, it was a very quote unquote safe one to start with. And if there's any problems, if there's any bugs, if there's anything that's really holding back from full experience, you can bet Apple's probably going to address that before they roll out the 17 later on this year.
Okay.
So
I still have my doubts. And I will drop on the floor if they announced like an AI agent type thing. Because again, maybe it's just because we cover, AI so much on this show that it just feels like, again, Apple is still, catching up or playing catch up. And maybe at some point they'll make a leap and wow us with all sorts of cool AI stuff. But at this point, it's like, I still can't get Siri to answer a question correctly.
Yeah, well, give it time because, here's one of the things about Apple is that, Apple has, one of its, it does a lot of things, right? It does a lot of things very well. But one of the things it does very well is that it stands on the shoulders of the giants that came before it and just knocks it out of the park. Okay. And I think, I'm willing to give Apple Intelligence, as I've given, ChatGPT the first round, as I've given Gemini the first couple rounds, and what we've seen with Galaxy AI and Moto AI, you know what? We have to accept the first versions of everything from every single vendor, warts and all. Okay. And you can bet it's not going to stay the same by the time they get to, version 3 or 4. Okay. That's why I personally don't buy, the first version of anything that comes out.
Yeah.
So I think, if we give these things some time and say, okay, let them, I don't want to say lick their wounds, but let them learn from their mistakes and make the right adjustments. Now we're talking. Okay. So that's why, would I get an iPhone 16? Yeah, probably not. Would I look forward to the 18 and the 19? Yeah, you bet I do.
Yeah.
You bet.
Do you, as an analyst for IDC, do you have to kind of play it down the middle for a lot of these things, or are you allowed to have kind of strong opinions on these things? Because it feels like you're hedging your bets on some of these things. Just a little.
Just a little. Okay. Just a little, and that's okay. That's okay. But I think we have to give a very honest, objective, and balanced kind of view. But very rarely do I come out and say, "Oh, this thing's a total dog." Right. Because to be a dog,
it has to really be bad.
It has to be really bad. But being in the industry for 20 plus years, you can kind of see where okay, I see where you are right now. I can see where it's going in the future. Yeah. And that's the part that I'm more excited about. And congratulations on finally dipping your toe in the water. Yep. Okay. I'll take you what you can do now. Let's see what you can do later.
Right. So if to tie this all back with the smartphone, do you see, if you're going to look into the future, do you see a time where the smartphone becomes less important as it is now, or does it merge with other devices that become a computing platform for people? Because it used to be just you could go to work with a laptop and a smartphone and you're all set, and so the laptop's still here, smartphone's still here. Is it going to be at some point it's like you can go to work with a laptop, smartphone, and then something on your head that's tracking or monitoring or hands free? And that's the world we're going to be in, or do you ever see anything where this goes away? Because I can't see this going away.
It's not going away. I don't think it's going away, and I don't think the form factor, I don't think the hardware is going to change meaningfully. I mean, we'll have more foldables, and I look forward to the day if and when Apple says, maybe we should get into that. Yeah. But if anything, and this kind of goes for many other computing devices, but the smartphone holds a certain pride of place for a lot of people. Okay, you never leave the phone, the home without 3 things. Ready?
Your keys,
your wallet, and your smartphone. Okay.
And people are trying to replace the wallet by putting it on the smartphone.
Exactly.
Right?
And one of those three things is in danger from the smartphone.
Yeah.
So, but I think what you're going to see, kind of going forward is that, that smartphone is going to it's going to be integrated and connected with all the other devices and systems in order to make things happen. Okay. You kind of see it, like you said, with a wallet.
Yeah.
Okay. And I think, it's going to be connecting to your Meta Ray-Bans or your, Amazon Echo frames for your glasses. And so those are two of the most popular ones here in the United States, at the moment.
Yeah.
It's going to connect to your home and into your car and to everything else.
I just realized we didn't really talk about the creepy factor, but really quickly, again, when you brought up the wallet, the reason I don't have all of the stuff on the wallet is because I'm paranoid about credit card theft and financial data that's on that phone if I lose that or if somehow it gets stolen because it's digital. So I do try to keep some physical media around me, and the wallet's one of them, and the credit cards is because I always know that it's in my back pocket. But then the creepy factor with some of these glasses and recording, that's also concerning for a lot of people too, right?
That is, and that's what sparked the entire glass hole movement back in 2015. And some devices would come out.
Soon.
But some devices would come out with glasses, especially, and a certain light would come in. I think Snap Spectrum would do that. And I don't think we're at the point where these are going to be readily accepted. Okay. As a matter of fact, you might have people some places have like, hey, this is a no recording zone, or you must notify somebody if you have such a pair of glasses, or these are absolutely prohibited in this area. Okay.
I think we live in a world now though with everyone's got a phone and everyone can record off of their phone. I think most people accept the fact that if they're out in a public place, you're going to be recorded. But again, with the glasses now, if you've entered a private space, that's where it can become problematic.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Ramon, again, thanks for being on the show. Again, you're very smart guy. I love talking to smart people on the show. So thanks for being here.
Always a pleasure. See you next time.
Yep. That's going to do it for this week's show. Be sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, add any thoughts below if you're watching us on YouTube. Join us every week for new episodes of Today in Tech. I'm Keith Shaw. Thanks for watching.